Hello UAE startups. What a pleasure to connect and be part of this innovative journey of yours. Working in collaboration with AIM, Bedayat brings to you a webinar to help you better prepare for the UAE Startup Roadshow. Bedayat is a business incubator certified by Dubai SME. We welcome startups with ideas, innovations, and technologies that contribute to social, environmental, and economic sustainability. We're located in the multiple award-winning community called the Sustainable City, which is the first net zero energy community in Dubai. Using a three-step process, we will teach you how to successfully pitch your idea in 5 minutes. First, we will show you a simple way to validate your business idea and streamline your business model. Second, we will highlight the elements that support any sustainable business, including how to approach a circular economy. Third, we will explain how a virtual pitch is different from a face-to-face one and how you should prepare to deliver a smooth virtual presentation in just 5 minutes. For more information about Bedayat, please follow us on social media.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all attendees to the virtual mentoring session for the AIM UAE Startup Roadshow, which will be provided by Bedayat Sustainable City. My name is Karen Bazan and I will be your host for today's event. And as we all know, the platform was originally scheduled to be held in March as a physical competition and was since postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak and a nationwide lockdown. AIM will now be delivered to our global audience digitally on the 20th to 22nd of October. AIM, short for the Annual Investment Meeting, is the largest investment platform in the world. As an initiative of the UAE's Ministry of Economy, AIM has been promoting a healthier global economy by linking investment opportunities to fast-growing economies under several key pillars: foreign direct investment, foreign portfolio investment, small and medium enterprise, future cities, a One Belt, One Road special event, and startups, which is our key focus for today. We are excited to learn the pointers a startup has to keep to mind before presenting their ideas to various investors and learning how to showcase their company's product and solutions as they compete for a chance to represent to UAE at the final AIM 2020 Global Startups Champions and the League in Dubai later this year. And so just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. If you experience any issues with your audio or video during the webinar, just refresh your browser and that should take care of everything. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please do feel free to post your questions in the chat box as we will have a Q&A round with our speaker at the end of the presentation. Today, we are joined by Mr. Karim El-Jizr, Chief Sustainability Officer, Social Diamond Developers at the Sustainable City, with a combined expertise in resource management, climate change, and urban development. After 20 years in conservation management, he shifted his attention to making cities and communities more livable and climate-proof. He is based in the Sustainable City in Dubai, an award-winning master plan community, where he manages a global platform for advancing knowledge in sustainability and the built environment. And so, Mr. Karim, the stage is yours.
Great, thank you, Karen, and thank you to AIM for organizing this. I think it's very fitting. You know, we're all in the business of starting a business, and if this is the first time that you embark in such a journey and are about to make a pitch next week, the purpose of this webinar is to help you get there, help you get ready. We are confident that you know your business well, but you need to convince the rest of us that you are the best person for the job. And so with that, I'm going to now share my screen. And I also have my colleague Milda at Bedayat to support us for the Q&A. And she was also instrumental in putting this together to support all of you. So I see we have participants today from several Emirates, You have probably come a long journey already, and you have been selected to pitch next week. And so today we're going to give you some useful tips. I hope you find it useful. I shall do so in the next 30 to 35 minutes, and then perhaps 40, and then we will also have time for your questions. Karen, is my slides showing well, or should I remove? I think
yes, it's perfect. It's showing.
Or that way? Yep.
Yep, it's good. All good.
All right, very good. So we want to prepare you for a successful pitch in just 5 minutes. And we're doing so, of course, in collaboration with the annual investment meeting and the Ministry of Economy. Thank you to all the organizations who put this together. We have a simple story to tell, and it's really about one, the golden circle. So how you should embrace the golden circle in your pitch to validate your ideas and then to convince the jury that you're the best for the job. 2, we're going to also describe and help you build a sustainable business. So how do you build a sustainable business? There are many businesses out there and many ideas, but very few of them, a very small subset, are actually sustainable ideas that will result in a sustainable business. So here we have some tips for you as well as you align with sustainability, which is really new normal in the world. And number 3, we're also going to give you some simple tips on how to deliver an impactful and virtual pitch, which is like me, and I'm nervous too, just giving you this webinar. So it's absolutely normal if you are nervous next week, but we want you to overcome this fear and really turn that into your energy and into a pitch. All right, so I'm going to start with the golden circle. So for those of you who may be familiar or may not be familiar with the golden circle, it was actually a concept developed by someone by the name of Simon Sinek. And this was more than 15 years ago. And for that, he appeared on a TED Talk. And this is arguably one of the most watched TED Talks of all times, more than 50 million views. So it's quite simple. We want you also to follow, we advise that you follow the golden circle, which looks like this. It's actually 3 circles, not 1. At the heart of the circle is the why of your pitch. Then comes the how of how you will deliver the business and the idea and how you will set up your company. And the what ultimately is what is it that you are offering to people? Is it a product? Is it a service? So if you follow this logic from the center and out, so 3 concentric circles, this will prepare you for an impactful pitch. Let's start with the why. So unless you have a why, it's very difficult to pitch anything. Sometimes we're tempted to go straight into the solution, right? I have the next generation of cell phones. I have organic cotton. I have an interesting technology, an interesting solar panel. But it's the why that you have to answer. Without the why, it's very difficult to sell the what. And around the world, it's all about starting up and developing businesses, and millions of people have done so before you. Very few of those millions actually succeed in the business. And then even fewer of those who succeed will actually achieve long-lasting success. So, and that is very often due to the lack of purpose. Your idea, your business, your project has to have a purpose. And you must ask that question at the very beginning of the journey, not at the end. So the why, the how, and the what, they are seemingly easy questions. But having clear answers is what will distinguish you as a strong pitcher from someone else who's a weak pitcher. I'm going to stay to the why as well. So the why in many ways is not about profit making. You're not setting up a business just for the sake of profit and making money. Ultimately, that's what you need to survive and to sustain yourself. But there has to be a higher purpose. There has to be a belief. What's the problem that you're trying to address? If you're able to state and articulate and identify the problem, then you have a good starting point. So there has to be a purpose, a cause, a mission, and you have to believe in it. So next week, when you're pitching, you really have to believe in the product. And this is really the inspiration. This is what gets you up in the morning. This is the drive. This is the energy. So the goal is not to sell to people what you plan to have, but the goal is to sell to people what you believe they should believe. So what you believe, I should believe. That's what you have to sell to me. That's the purpose, that's the why, and this is how your business has to start. Then we move on and out to the second circle. So the how circle. The how circle is really how are you going to go about to implement your idea. And these are the actions. It has to break down into individual and discrete actions. And those actions will also differentiate you from the competition. Are you aiming to do it differently? Is your product going to be more attractive? Are you going to engage people? Are you going to do it locally, regionally? Are you going to do it globally? So the how, the mechanical side of achieving your purpose, this is what you need to deliver and convey to us. And ultimately, well, you're going to sell something. You're going to sell a product or you're going to sell a service. And this is what most organizations do. But unless you started with the why and you clearly define your how, the what is going to lose steam, it's going to lose appeal. So make sure that you start with the why, proceed with the how, and then the what. The what truly comes at the end. So by bringing those three together, from why to how to what, why is the belief, how are the actions, and what is really the result. And that's what you are selling. As much as possible, you have to be consistent in your language, consistent in your why, consistent in your how and what. With consistency, people will see and hear without a shadow of a doubt what you believe. Let's look at an example. So for example, there are many great stories out there. So one story is Tom's Shoes. And this was by a person, so it's a shoe company, started by a person by the name of Blake McCoskey. And he started his company not as a for-profit, but initially because he was traveling in Argentina in 2006, and he saw hardships in the streets. And he saw that most people did not have a proper pair of shoes or any shoes at all, which makes it very difficult for them to move. It makes it difficult for them to walk to school, to attend, to access education. And for all those reasons, he said, well, great, I'm going to create a company which with a goal to provide a new pair of shoes to a person in need for every pair of shoes sold. So the why was to provide shoes for the people in Argentina, young kids in the streets without shoes. They're going to sell shoes to us, and for every shoe sold, there's going to be a shoe donated to someone who needs it in Argentina. And this has to be communicated through the company and through all the actions of the company. Another great example is Apple. So who doesn't know Apple? Well, Apple is obviously in the business of manufacturing something which is beautiful. And they have achieved disproportionate success. You know, this is the highest or second highest value company in the world. And they have been very true to their why. The why for Apple is not about providing an iPhone, but it is about challenging status quo and making you think differently. This is the why of Apple. And how so? Well, the way we challenge the status quo is making our products beautiful, beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. So Apple wants you to think differently, and they want to approach it by beautifully designed, simple, and user-friendly products. And ultimately, the what is just an iPad or an iPhone on your desk or at the tip of your palm. So to wrap it up, if you want to build a company that is successful, don't repeat the mistakes of many other companies before you. And don't believe that if you make it, they will buy it, or if you build it, they will come. That doesn't work anymore. You have to go beyond. And so with that, we're now going to dive into what makes a business sustainable. Anybody can make a pitch today, and there are millions of pitches being made across the world, across cultures and geographies, in many different languages, and across all the industries. But if you want to stand out, your business has to make sustainability sense. It's got to make a profit on the basis of sustainability. Well, before we talk sustainability, let us understand what is the current state of affairs. And this is very beautifully simplified in this slide, which talks about the linear economy. So today, the world is very much linear. we're born, we grow up, we age, and we move on. We extract resources from nature, we make something in a facility, and then eventually we sell it, it gets used, and then we get rid of it, disposal. So take, make, waste is very much the order of the day. Unfortunately, this doesn't work anymore. We are at a tipping point on so many levels, with greenhouse gas emissions, with climate change, with forest fires, with ice melting, with resource depletion, with pollution levels, with ocean plastics. And so take, make, waste is no longer acceptable. And this will not make you a successful business. So that is the current state of affairs. And the entire market is actually designed and geared to make you produce more and make you consume more and just get rid of it. Fast wear, fast food, fast mobility, everything is fast. You just replace it and you move on. Well, this is obsolete because we have crossed a tipping point. We need your business to pioneer solutions that can contribute to those existing problems and challenge the linear economy. And so from a linear economy, we now have to go circular, circle. Think in circular terms. Where do you start? Where do you finish? Can your finish be the start again? And so on and so forth. And this applies to economics, it applies to people relations, it applies to manufacturing as well. Let's look at this slide, which tries to convey the challenges of and the opportunities of going circular. So from linear to circular. The slide is split halfway. So if you look on the right side of the slide in blue, that's my thing, my product, my stock. On the left side, these are my energy, my renewable resources, and the flows of renewable resources. So again, on the right side, we tend to manufacture something if you start at the top. And remember, we have finite materials. Perhaps during the Industrial Revolution and beyond, and after World War I and World War II, we thought we had access to unlimited resources. But today we know we have finite resources and population keeps increasing. We are at 7.6 billion people today, and we expect that to reach 9.5 billion by 2050. So we do have finite resources, including coal and oil, but more importantly, important metals and minerals and lithium and wood and so on and so forth. So when we produce something, we extract, we produce, and then we sell it. Ideally, on that right side of the formula, which is developed, this visual is developed by Ellen MacArthur Foundation. I recommend you to look her up or look them up. It is about reusing those products. It's about maintaining, prolonging the life. It's about refurbishing those products, upcycling and recycling those products so that we can extract more life out of those products that we have manufactured. On the left side of the slide, now we begin to see how can we transform these products after collection into something else. We can extract some chemicals from them, we can digest those minerals, we can produce gas perhaps, we can regenerate the planet, we can turn that into a biochemical feedstock, some of that can then go back into the food chain. You have resources, and those we need to optimize. So we have to move away from what I said, a linear economic model to a circular economic model, and think how this can apply to your startup and your business, whatever it may be. And now I need to convince you, and you need to convince the jury next week that you are going sustainable. So I need to explain to you why a sustainable business has many benefits, unwavering benefits, which will distinguish you from the competition. There are many benefits to going sustainable, but I would like to focus on 6 of those. New sources of revenue. If you go sustainable, you're going to tap into new customers. You're going to reduce your production costs. You're going to follow an innovative approach. You're going to distinguish yourself when it comes to brand recognition and reputation. You want a brand. You want people to remember. You want people to believe in your business and believe in what you believe in. And then you also want to secure your supply chain. Let's explore those individually. So a circular economy is all about practical solutions to existing problems and to realizing new opportunities. And you have to identify and seek those new opportunities. So going circular is not about charity. Remember, this is not CSR. We're not asking you to give charity. We're asking you to align your business with the needs and the limitations of the planet. So by exploring new revenue sources, here's what we want you to do. So rather than getting into a crowded market, e-scooters, for example, we at Sustainable City, in the past year and a half, we've been approached by 10 companies. They all have the same product. It's called an e-scooter. You get on it, and then it has a little kick because it's electric. And they keep coming to us with the same scooter. It's manufactured in China or in Korea, with the same battery, with the same model, and nobody's better. We keep asking them, well, what else do you provide? You know, we've met with 9 other companies like yours. What do you provide? And they try to add something, but it doesn't really make a difference. So don't get into a crowded market. You're going to spend a lot of energy to establish yourself. And you don't want to be fighting for a pie, which has of a certain size, for the same pie, because that same pie is only going to get smaller and smaller. You want to fight and you want to look for a bigger pie. You want to increase the size of the pie or look for an entirely different pie. And when you tap into a new and more sustainable and less competitive industry, you're going to find new clients and new customers. So let's give you a few examples. In energy, for example, of course, you don't want to work in fossil fuels anymore. You have so many opportunities in renewable energy, in wind energy, in solar powered energy. At Sustainable City, we've been approached again by many industries who innovate and have something new to contribute to society and to making the built environment more sustainable. How can I harness energy from surfaces, from facades, from windows, from rooftops? All of that is very interesting, while providing other benefits like shading as well. What about food? If you're thinking about food industry and the food tech industry, that is going through massive transformation. We're now seeing a quantum shift from open field agriculture or traditional conventional agriculture to indoor vertical farming, which is so well suited to cities because you can accommodate indoor farming in basements, on rooftops, on campuses, in communities. And there is so much out there being done in the field in the realm of indoor farming, or IVF, indoor vertical farming. In textiles and fashion, if you're just proposing a new kind of tailoring, well, fine, you may have great taste. But what if that is sourced differently? What if the cotton comes from a certain community and it is traceable and you only use biodegradable dyes and so on and so forth? In waste management has so much to offer and we have only seen the tip of the iceberg. 80% of waste here in Dubai and in the rest of the UAE continues to be landfilled. Which means it ends up somewhere in the environment. That is what you and I are producing and consuming. Well, what if we can tap into that waste stream because it is e-waste, because it contains heavy metals, which can be used by someone else? How can I slash waste production? How can I consider circular flows in my waste management practices? Likewise, in transportation and materials. The materials, so we talked about tailoring, but in construction as well, in the car industry, in the electronics industry, you have materials that are being innovated across all industries. And that is perhaps also one way that you can distinguish yourselves by tapping into new innovative materials. Consider 3D printing, UV reflective paint, biodegradable plastics, etc., etc. So that's number one. All of that is just one benefit. The second benefit is, if you follow number one, you're going to tap into new markets. You're going to tap into underserved customers. So when you explore a new industry, you'll be addressing the needs of people who have either been priced out of existing product offers or whose needs haven't been met at all. So remember, 7.6 billion people on the planet today. Most of those people don't have what you and I have today. And so products and services are needed across the board. Do not think only UAE, you can think GCC, you can think beyond, you can think Africa, Asia, etc., etc. Number three, it's about lowering costs. Now, cost is always the biggest struggle, the biggest impediment to whatever idea you wish to deploy. Well, what if we can consider operating costs as reduced if we follow some sustainability principles? So it is not about sustainability at an increased cost or at a premium. You want to achieve sustainability with a lower CAPEX and OPEX. So this is really about closing the loops. Can you source materials which are more efficient? Can you employ renewable energy in your production cycle? So if you have your own facility in your own factory somewhere, can you bring in renewable energy instead of relying exclusively on the utilities? Can you make and produce the water that you need? And so on and so forth. So think renewables, think circular flows to bring down your cost as a company. Number 4, think disruption. So much has disrupted us in the past few months, from climate change in the past few years to COVID-19 in the past 7 to 8 months, and there will be more disruptions ahead. Well, what if your industry can bring positive disruption to society? Your idea can bring positive disruption to society. And that positive disruption can come, again, through innovation. And we live, we're fortunate to live in a country which embraces innovation. It is not frowned upon. Be different, think outside the box, challenge conventional mindsets. By introducing new solutions, you're creating a competitive advantage that directly benefits profitability of your company thanks to the first mover advantage. Remember, if you're the first ones to embrace something new, you're going to be ahead of the curve, right? You're going to make the wave. You're not just going to float and then perhaps eventually lose energy and drown. You're going to make the wave because you are embracing innovation. You're the early adopter. So come to the jury and be that early innovator so that we become followers and early adopters. Number 5, you also want to build your reputation. Ultimately, it's not just the product. When I buy an iPhone or a car or a tie or a box of biscuits, I also think of the company behind the product. It's very important that you establish also and you work towards establishing a reputable company. Your brand is really your survival. So it's not only about the product. People need to know that the product which is produced by you, company X, stands for something, has beliefs, and want to make a change in society. Authenticity and transparency are other demands that these customers will make, we will make. By showing that you use your business as a source of good, rather than only to earn a quick buck, without even knowing what the consequences of that, will help you build a deeper and longer relationship with your customers. So you have to convey that to me. You want to do good for the planet as well. And lastly, it's about securing your supply chain continuity. Supply chains and logistics have been disrupted. So you need to think, how am I producing what I intend to produce? Where do the parts come from? Look at your supply chain upstream, right? All the sellers come downstream of you, or the consumers. So think of the providers and the suppliers to you. Upstream, what is happening there? Is there a circular model of my supplies upstream that can achieve higher returns and contribute to the greater good? So all of that is something also we can support with if you come to Bedayat, because we help you think across sustainability, both vertically and horizontally. So I hope that I was able to convey some of the key benefits. The list is much longer. Initially we had 10, but I thought 6 would suffice. Now, as part of sustainability business planning, you want to consider a scorecard. And a scorecard is also a concept which is based on the cradle-to-cradle design principles, which were coined about 10 years ago and have become the golden standard for certification of sustainable products in the world. So what does that say? Well, it is about non-toxic, it's about durable and reusable, it is about renewable energy, it is about water stewardship and social fairness. So let's discuss those one by one. Think of you having a business and a pitch next week. Am I considering all of that? Did I pay due attention to the inputs? Do I pay due attention to producing something that is durable or reusable? Did I consider renewable energy? Did I consider water conservation, stewardship? And lastly, did I consider the social element, which means, is my business socially fair? Is the employment upstream fair? Do people have decent wages upstream? And so on and so forth. So non-toxic, let's start at the top. It's all about making products using materials that are, including chemicals, that are safe, as safe as possible for people and the environment. You do not want to include chemicals which are non-safe in your products. They can be consumed, they can be dissolved, they can enter the water stream, they can enter the food supply chain. So you want to make sure that all the chemicals that will go into your product are safe for human consumption and disposal. So ask yourself, where do the materials come from? Do I know? Can they be recycled? Are they recyclable? Are they biodegradable? Number two, are my materials durable and reusable? So this category aims to eliminate the concept of waste. So at the end of the product life, what you intend to produce and manufacture, if it is a product as opposed to a service, can I extend the life of that product? Can I dismantle it? Can I upcycle it? How long do you expect it to last? And today, unfortunately, consumerism and capitalism is prey to that, because we produce things which have a very short lifespan and they have to be replaced. In fact, some large industries, it is said, they design for obsolescence, which means that they deploy a beautiful product, such as a mouse, but eventually they know that within 6 months it has to be replaced. It could last longer, but by design, they make it last less long so that you're going to replace it and buy some more. Of course, you have to do the opposite of that. So can you make your product more durable by switching to other materials? What should the consumer do with the product? What should I do with the product at the end of its useful life? And can it be upcycled? So that's number two. Number three, maybe I should do it this way. Energy. So I mentioned energy before, and today the world, it is all about going low carbon. Paris Agreement, low carbon, emission reduction, gap analysis, carbon footprint, embodied energy, operational energy. You cannot start a business and be successful today without giving due attention to your carbon footprint. And one way to reduce your carbon footprint is to consider renewable energy in your production line or your distribution, anywhere in your supply chain. So where is the product manufactured? Even if it is offsite, even if it is in China or it is in Egypt, well, consider the energy source that went into manufacturing what you wish to develop and sell here in the UAE and beyond. And if you're outsourcing some of that, again, look at the subcontractors. You have to walk up that hill to see what is happening upstream of the product and how that energy is being sourced. Look for ISO certification, any other certification, LEED certification. And then ultimately, you can also assess and evaluate the carbon footprint of what you're going to sell to me as a consumer. We see a world where next time you buy a new kettle or a toaster or a cell phone, there's going to be a carbon label with it. So there's going to be a price tag, there's going to be a barcode, and there's going to be a carbon label as well. So think if your product can already come with a carbon label so that you distinguish yourself and then you commit to disclosing your footprint to your audience and followers. We talk about energy, we should also talk about water. Water is a very finite resource. In the UAE, 99.9% of the water that we consume is desalinated, which is very energy intensive, be it in Sharjah, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi. This is seawater, which goes through reverse osmosis with a lot of energy input so that you receive fresh water at the tap. So we have to consider our water footprint, which calls for water stewardship. You have to reduce your consumption. You have to think of where it's coming from. You also have to think of the wastewater that's going to leave your facility. And ultimately, how does your effluent impact the receiving environment, be it a stream, an open desert, or the ocean? So you really have to consider your water footprint as well. And lastly, you also have to be socially conscious. Unfortunately, out of sight is not out of mind. So when people work under abusive conditions around the world, that's just to bring down the cost. This does not mean that you have a great product and you're going to sell better. Until recently, perhaps the large manufacturers were able to get away with it. But now with social media, with exposure, with disclosure, with scrutiny, it has become more and more important that you also trace your social impact, you quantify your social impact upstream. So what are the working conditions of the people all along the supply chain? Are basic human rights respected? Do they have rights to assemble? Is there any protection against discrimination and gender? So these are also factors you want to consider, whether you produce and manufacture in the UAE or anywhere else in the world. So we talked about the benefits, and now I'd like to explain to you how Bedayat can help you also to align your thoughts along with this sustainability journey, which is really a continuum. Nobody is perfect today. Perhaps you're going to make some improvements to your pitch based on what you hear today by next week, and we hope so. And you're going to integrate some ideas to enhance and promote sustainability. Well, here's how we would help you, also working in tandem with AIM. So we will put your sustainability scorecard at the heart of the process. And that scorecard is really going to assess the footprint and the impact that you have across the environment and across your supply chain. We will start with a business planning approach. So if you come to us with a business plan, we're going to review it, we're going to scrutinize it, dissect it, and refine it. If you do not have a business plan, then we will assist you in preparing a business plan. And this is an iterative process. And after that, we're going to coach you. So coaching is really about assigning someone to you, someone who understands your industry, be it clean technology, mobility, education, edtech, fintech, etc. So we will assign a person who can coach you, help you along with expertise from the industry and some networking as well. This is really important for you to be able to progress in your journey, because many of us have ideas. You know, the world is full of ideas, no shortage of ideas in the world. However, there is a shortage of planning, and there is a shortage of focus on sustainability. As part of that coaching journey as well, you will have access to a library of information and products, including a network of people. And you can also attend some guest lectures by Bedayat, by sister organizations, by AIM as well. Now, what's even more interesting when you incubate with us is that we will invite you to pilot your project. You see, many ideas turn into projects, but then it stops because the project hasn't been tested. And most products and services need to be tested with people. Yes, some of that can be virtual, but ultimately you may want to deploy something. You may want to install something. You may want to apply something. So to the extent that the sustainable city as an urban built environment can accommodate your idea, we will invite you to implement a pilot project. Could be small, could be big. All of that depends on your business plan. And it doesn't have to be expensive. You know, it has to be affordable so that you're able to demonstrate, even on a small scale, that this works. You may have economies of scale to benefit from as you grow. However, the idea has to latch on. The product has to make sense, to the business, has to make sense to the environment, has to make sense to the people, the end users. So a pilot project is really something that you should pursue, and we recommend that you pursue. And ultimately, as your business plan continues to grow, as coaching continues to orient you towards a successful pilot project and deployment, you will graduate. And before you graduate, there will be an exit review of your idea, of your product development. And with that, we will give you a certificate. We will issue a certificate testifying to the fact that you have completed a journey, a mentorship and incubation journey at sustainability. And we use different tools also to support you and to support the scorecard, including the lean startup approach, which is inspired by lessons from lean manufacturing. The approach is built on a build, measure, learn feedback loop. It promotes validated learning, which means short decision paths. Sometimes you have to make quick decisions, building a minimal viable product, gathering empirical data, and based on that, making a decision to pivot, change, or persevere. Another tool we use is the Lean Canvas. Very useful. A Lean Canvas is an effective business plan template which helps you to deconstruct the business idea. So you deconstruct the business idea into its key assumptions. And it is adapted from a very famous model. It is based on 9 building blocks, and it will also guide you through the process. And with that, we come perhaps to an equally important part of this webinar, which is how you're going to present next week. Remember, being nervous is fine. And especially if you don't see an audience, it might be intimidating to actually sit and straight and look into a screen, and you don't see the audience, but you're told that some people are actually watching, and this is a pitch, and you only have 5 minutes. Virtual presentations are like taking a flight on an airplane. When you take off, it's very critical. And then when you land, it's equally critical. So make sure you start strong and you finish strong. Now here are a few tips. Less is more. In life, I'm a believer that less is more. Don't say too much. Don't drown in the numbers. Don't have too many messages. Go straight to the point. Less is more. And always start with a key message. If after 3 minutes into your pitch, I haven't received and heard the key message yet, then something is wrong. You lost me as a jury. So start with your key message. Keep it simple and coherent. Use visuals. And then choose your font wisely. Don't make it too much calligraphy. Don't beautify it too much. Choose your font wisely. It also has to reflect your tone of voice and the brand. Now you have to convince me that you know your business. And every jury member has to get the same impression. So you want to have figures. You may not have all the figures, but you want to have some figures ready that you can share. Be transparent. Even if you have some pain points and you have some doubts, that is fine too. So that's actual. And you also want to be able to forecast. Forecast is really looking into the future. Don't look too far, but certainly you have to be able to look down the road, say 1 to 3 years and beyond. Now, financing. What are your thoughts on financing? What are you pitching to the jury? Do you have it all? Do you need access to financing? Are you inviting the juries to take equity into your company so that you can grow? What's the plan? Give us some options. And then what is the expected return? As your business is growing, you must have some numbers. Be realistic. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. It's better to underpromise and overdeliver. But you have to tease us. You have to convince us that you can deliver. And then ultimately, when it comes to numbering, you may also want to value your company. And valuation is a big exercise. There are books about company valuations, and keep it simple. If you are attempting to evaluate your company, you can do so, but keep it simple. Lastly, you have to know the rules, right? So you're joining the competition, you are pitching. Then for 5 minutes, remember, you only have 5 minutes for the pitch. So everything you want to say, I now spoke for 35 minutes. Everything you want to say has to be said in 5 minutes. This is really a long elevator pitch. And then you will have time for some questions, about 5 minutes for questions from the jury. You need to listen to those questions really well and answer the questions. Don't avoid the questions, answer the questions. So deliver key messages early. Another tip is to use wired connection. Avoid Wi-Fi just so that you have a better connection on the day. Do expect some technical issues, but don't panic. It happens to the best of us. So technical issues can happen, just learn to overcome them. You better be presenting from a PDF file, which doesn't move too much, with little animation. This will ensure a more smooth presentation. You want to make sure that you're sitting in a quiet room, not too much noise. I'm sitting in my office now. The door is closed, but I'm concerned that someone might walk in. So you have to make sure that you are sitting in a quiet room. And for those 10 minutes, nobody's going to disturb you. And speak to the camera. Not up there, not down here, right? Speak to the camera. Choose as much as possible a neutral background and record your pitch. And you can also pre-record your pitch if you want to practice so that you feel more ready for the pitch day itself. And finally, when you hear those questions coming to you, focus. Have a pencil, have a paper, jot down some notes along the way if the questions are long or if you have run-on questions. And I conclude with 9 tips. 1, talk clearly. Don't mumble. Don't talk too fast. Remember, 5 minutes is a lot of time if you don't repeat yourself and you speak clearly. And make it sound like a story. It starts with the why. Something prompted the idea. Grab my attention. Make it sound like a story. Normally, you would research your audience. But for a virtual presentation, we tell you, you have a jury at the end of that screen behind the camera, anywhere from 5 to 7 people representing different organizations. And that's all you need to know for the sake of this pitch. Use your body language. So I'm sitting here in front of you. I should not be shaking too much. I shouldn't be nervous. I should not be spinning in my chair too much. Use your body language, sit up, straight back, and look straight into the camera. Of course, body language is more important if this is a face-to-face pitch, but now this is perhaps more challenging because it's online. Very important, talk to me and don't read from the slides. And don't memorize the slides. The slides can be just pointers for you, but talk to me, talk to the jury. Dress for success doesn't mean you need a coat and tie, and preferably not just a t-shirt, right? Just strike that balance that makes you feel comfortable and believable. Be mindful of the time, have a clock next to you, put your watch on the table next to you so that you can monitor your own time as well, up to those 5 minutes. Practice, practice, practice. You still have a couple of days before the pitch itself. And lastly, enjoy this. Perhaps I made it sound too serious, but I think the best part of all this pitch and this competition with AIM's webinar and startup is to have fun, right? So remember to have fun. And lastly, I finish with this slide. I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it has been. So if you watch that, and this is something we see in the Winter Olympics, you have to skate towards where the puck will be, not where it has been. So you have to be ahead of the curve. You have to be beyond the hill. And with that, I'm going to give this back to Karen and see if we have any questions. And Milda is here also to take your questions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Karim, for very insightful presentation, amazing quotes as well, easy to follow pointers and rules. We have a few minutes left, so I think we are going to cover most of the questions. We actually receive a lot of questions here. We will go ahead with the first question, Mr. Karim.
Yes.
Okay, what kind of information should never be included in a deck?
Ooh, good one. So yeah. I think we focused on the information that should be included. What information should not be included? Milda, what do you think?
Yeah, so hi, everybody. I would say irrelevant information shouldn't be included. Just be mindful of the time. It's 5 minutes. Practice, 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 and include only information that is related to your business case. Be mindful, you need to convince the juries. You don't need any extra information that is not relevant to your particular business case. As Karim said, less is more. Like really no unnecessary information.
Perfect.
Yeah, so for example, don't spend too much time talking about, the press and the media and hearsay. All of that is irrelevant. Stay focused and think of the 3 circles.
All right, so we're moving to our next question. Does having a sustainable approach be applicable for all startups, be it tangible or intangible, in terms of products, of services a company has? Sir Karim?
Yeah, I mean, we believe, I'm sure Milda is very, she's very passionate about this, as we all are. And we all say that, the entire world has a business case when it comes to sustainability, not just my idea and your idea and her idea. So sustainable business planning and sustainability can be infused and integrated into any product, into any service. A service could be logistics, could be any manufacturing product, certainly, as I had mentioned before. And it's more of a mindset and a paradigm shift than a new product of itself, right? So ultimately, if you are manufacturing, I'll go back to e-scooters. We talked about e-scooters. The market is awash with e-scooters, but sustainability is not there. So if someone wants to shine, they have to make sure that those batteries are reusable, they are replaceable. The parts perhaps are made of recycled metals or recycled plastics. The transportation, if everything is sourced in China, and then did you miss me there? I thought I was stuck.
For a little while, but as you said, technical issues do happen.
Okay, so Milda, what do you think?
No, I agree with you. Absolutely. Sustainability is not related only to products. For example, if you have a coffee shop, you need to think, will you be serving your coffee in reusable cups or in plastic cups? You need to make sure where your coffee comes from. Is it fair trade? Is it sustainably grown? Is it grown using non-toxic inputs? And all of those sort of things. So absolutely, sustainability is such a broad concept, and it's related both to products and services, no question about it.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you, Ms. Milda and Mr. Karim. We're moving to our next questions. Do you being sustainable help providing reduced cost, as it may differ with few companies?
Yeah, this is, we invite every startup, every company, every developer, and we receive thousands of people in Sustainable City who ask us, is your city more expensive? Is a sustainable home more expensive? Is a sustainable car more expensive, etc.? And we're going to hear this again and again and again. We firmly believe, and we have demonstrated, that a sustainable journey or a sustainable product is not necessarily more expensive than conventional. This is something each one of us has to demonstrate. We have to work hard to bring down the cost of manufacturing and the cost of product development. I'll give you a simple example. So when we design villas in Sustainable City with much higher sustainability standards, we're able to maintain the cost, because by being more sustainable in terms of insulation, which is more expensive, better insulation, I'm actually going to reduce my air conditioning loads and deliveries. I'm going to reduce my installed capacity. So I always have pros and cons, or I have incremental costs and savings, and those, when you even those out and you look at the process holistically, you're able to maintain your cost and remain affordable and even more competitive. But you really have to dissect your supply chain. You really have to think smart. Sustainability is not an afterthought. And if we approach sustainability as an afterthought, so I already have a product, and now I'm going to do something to make it sustainable, it costs money. That's not a good business case. But if I'm able to design and manufacture my product with sustainability in mind, I will be able to reduce my costs.
Any additional from Ms. Milda?
No, I think that Karim was very right there. It's all about closing those loops within a circular economy, right? Circularity is all about reusing rather than consuming all over again. So just mathematically speaking, if you're reusing something all over again, you are, you don't need to buy anything new, you're lowering your cost base, very, very shortly speaking.
Thank you, Ms. Milda. I think we're going to cover two more questions. Mr. Karim, considering the dynamic nature of the business environment globally, is there ever an actual sustainable first mover advantage for any startup business?
Well, yes, globalization seems to be flattening the world, but it's not flat, and the field is not level. So there might be an early mover, right, in Chile or in Portugal or, but the world is big. The world can accommodate. Let's remember, the pie can be much bigger than it is today. So yes, innovation, we see that across the board, but some countries are leading, and I believe the UAE is one of them, and this part of the world. And ultimately, when we deploy something, unless you become the next Apple and the next Google, there is room for everybody. There cannot be many Apples in the world, and there cannot be many Googles in the world, but there can be many e-scooter companies in the world, and coffee-making companies in the world, and ICT companies in the world, and clean tech companies in the world. So it is also about market segmentation and capture. So what's the market? Where are we? And when you shift geographies, you also have different social norms. So products and services do not apply equally across the world because of different societal norms and social norms. Milda?
Yeah, I think it's the first mover advantage is not necessarily about being the very first one. It's about thinking outside the box. It's sticking to your why. If you really know why you're doing what you're doing, the rest of the world will as well. If you don't know it, nobody else will. So it's all about creating something special that is not really out there. And when you connect all of these three circles, why, how, and what, you naturally produce something extraordinary. So it's really not just being the very first one. It's about being noticed, and it's about conveying your message. Because as Karim also said, it's what you do sustainably also contributes to your brand reputation and brand value, and this will not go unnoticed even if you are number 2 or number 3. The market is big.
Thank you. So it's more innovative thinking continuously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to cover the last question, Mr. Karim, and going sustainable is indeed a great initiative, knowing that our resources are limited, but eco-friendly materials are very expensive. Being a startup, how do we afford that, considering that we ourselves are looking for funds? Mr. Karim and Ms. Hilda?
We've had many such conversations. What do you think, Hilda?
I guess the short answer is depends. We really need to look at the cost case by case, but I don't necessarily agree that sustainable materials are always, by definition, more expensive. They might be initially, but as the market demands rises, so we all know that prices normally are getting pushed down. And how it normally works is your initial costs may be higher initially at the very beginning, but they pay off in the long term. For example, if you use durable materials, for example, stainless steel in a coffee shop instead of paper or plastic bag, rather plastic bags, you pay up more, but you will not need to continue buying them, again and again. You will be reusing them. So it is true that your OPEX and CAPEX primarily can be higher initially, but during the long run, you are investing in your inputs that are more sustainable, more durable, reusable. So you will not be needing to replace them all over again.
You also have health benefits. I mean, there are many unknowns when we talk about products and impact, and it's never apples to apples. It's always apples to oranges. So for example, let's talk about sustainable cleaning solutions, because I heard you say, Karen, or the question was about eco-friendly products are more expensive. So I think, for example, sustainable cleaning. You go to the supermarket, you've got your regular detergents, and then you've got the green detergent, which is more expensive. Well, if it is a green detergent, this goes back to credibility and brand. Let's consider the other benefits of a green detergent. It might be more effective. You might use less of it. So it's not volume to volume in this case. You may pay 20% more on that side, but it has more durability or longevity than a regular detergent. Let's think health impact. So one of the reasons why we should all consider shifting to sustainable cleaning solution is to reduce exposure to harmful toxins in the closed environment. We're all exposed to that, and this may result in the likes of autism, disorders, cancer, etc., because we are constantly exposed to toxins. Well, if you decide to switch to non-toxic cleaning solutions, then you also have health benefits that you should try to monetize. And if you monetize those, then the 20% tails away compared to chemical detergents, conventional detergents.
Yeah, and
it goes back to the pitch. Sorry, that goes back to the pitch. Yes. So when those SMEs are pitching next week and at any other opportunity, you need to think of the full cycle. All the benefits of the product, not just item to item. This item has other benefits, and you need to highlight those other benefits to the end consumer.
Yes, I just want to refer back to your example about the Tom's shoes, when they came out, they were not the cheapest in the market, because by buying a pair of shoes, you were supporting another child. So Blake Mykovsky, gave a pair of shoes to another child. But incrementally, by buying shoes, you already a higher price is baked in that. But for me as a consumer, it feels good because I know that I pay a bit more, but I also make a child very, very happy. So it all depends on the business model you have. Even if you have a higher price product, you may have, maybe more loyal consumers.
Yeah. So building a consumer base is so important ultimately,
yeah.
right? And you have to communicate all the right messages. It goes back to storytelling and the why, right? So we keep going back to the why.
Yeah, so it's more on quality and benefits that you can offer. So. And so I think our time is up and we're running short of time. So for any further questions, maybe our startups can contact the AIM team and they shall connect it to the team of Bedayat. So, and Mr. Karim and Ms. Milda, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up this webinar?
Just good luck. Good luck to all the pitches next week. We look forward to listening in. Best of luck.
Ms. Milda?
Yes, if there are any questions, please contact us. We're more than happy to update you on the sustainability scorecard, on the lean startup approach, and lean canvas.
So that's it. Very simple and very short message, but yeah, very powerful. I would like to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation to Mr. Karim, of course, and Ms. Milda and the team of Bedayat. And would like to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation to AIM team and the UAE's Ministry of Economy for the opportunity to host the mentoring session, a support to AIM Startups virtual pitch competition. So the UAE Startup Roadshow will take place on 20th September for the startups in Sharjah and Abu Dhabi at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. respectively. And on 23rd of September for the startups in Ras Al Khaimah and Dubai at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. respectively. So to register for free, you have to go on aimcongress.com/roadshow/UAE/. And the annual investment meeting is still scheduled to take place in the fourth quarter of this year. So for more updates on the latest developments of the annual investment meeting, please visit and stay tuned to www.aimcongress.com. And for everyone's information, a replay of today's event will be made available on the Annual Investment Meetings YouTube channel in due course. And thank you once again and have a great day. Thank you, Ms. Milda. Thank you, Mr. Karim. Masalam. Bye.